Hey there, welcome to the Sister Circle podcast, where sometimes you hear me solo, but every now and again I bring in a sister or a brother to have a conversation that I think is worth having. Today you are in for a treat because I'll be joined by my friend, Mrs. Jada Edwards, who is a preacher, a teacher, a pastor's wife, an author, and a mom who's going to be talking about what it looks like to build an authentic life. And y'all, if you don't know who Jada is, you're not ready. And if you do know who Jada is, you're not ready. So I'm not going to hold the phone much longer. Without any further ado, let me jump into sharing with you, my friend, Jada Potato. What do you think is a good barometer for what to share and not to share? Like, that's a part of the answer, I'm sure. But I think it's the same thing. What is TMI? Mm-hmm. And does it matter who you're talking to? So when it comes to trying to warn other people or just say, hey, like, this has been my experience, learn from my experience. How do we adequately communicate about how we've built well or not on the foundation in a way that allows other people to learn from us so that they can build well, but also where it's not TMI?
Yeah, I think that's hard. Well, for me, the growth point for me has been starting first with authenticity. So like, am I even okay with everything that's going on with me, things that I've been through? A lot of times, if you're still in the middle of healing or still working out something, that's hard. But the first thing that has been something intentional for me in the last few years is being authentic to myself. And I don't mean like in the world, like be your true self, it's not that kind of thing. It's like, what's the truth about you? Because if I'm okay with that, when I meet someone who says I'm going through A, B, and C, I'm not detached. See, if you're not okay with with what's true about you, then when someone says, oh my gosh, I'm going through this season, you're like, ooh, let me pray for you. And God is like, pray for her, tell her that you have been through that season or you're still in it. But when we're detached from what's true about us, then that becomes a huge barrier to connecting with people. And so when I say authenticity, I don't just mean speaking your mind, which by the way, I'm about that too. But I
got better with age.
Oh, y'all, next year, I'm about to be 50. I'm going to say whatever I want to say. So if you come at me and you're incorrect, you're going to know. I cannot wait. I got so many thoughts in my head.
Why do you have to wait?
Because I just want somebody to be like, she 50. That's right.
It's like the credit. You earned the right.
Right. And my friends and family are like, it's going to get worse? Yes, it is.
Because you already speak your mind.
Girl.
Not everything.
Yeah. And I'm like, listen, I love you and I love the Lord, but what that right there is wrong. Don't do that again. Yeah, so I can't wait, y'all. 12 months. But anyway, so the authenticity, being true, being okay with what's true about me. I'm trying to watch my phrasing because I know that the idea of my truth is very popular in culture, and it's not that. Because there's only one truth, that's God's truth. I'm saying being okay with what's true about me. Because the more comfortable I am with my story and my actual life, I have to have that first to even be open to when to share and what to share and who to share with. If you're in denial about your life, then you're going to miss every opportunity that God is going to bring you. So being okay with my life is the first thing, the authenticity. And then I can start to ask the Lord in a moment, how much vulnerability? Authenticity always. Vulnerability with discernment. Because you can't be as vulnerable with everybody.
Say that again, that was good.
Authenticity always, but vulnerability with discernment. And sometimes, we skip authenticity and we just is verbal vomit coming out, and you're like, but I don't even know what's the real thing that needs to be shared in this moment. Vulnerability is not your opportunity to dump what's going on in your life. That's here. What is God saying in this moment for this relationship, for this audience? And so when I'm authentic and I'm okay with myself, long answer, I have tried to moment by moment, just what is God saying? Because if you're not actively seeking and actively discerning, you will come up with some formula for certain audiences that get certain parts of you. And you'll say, this person's not close to me, they don't need to know. And that could be the very moment where God is asking you to disclose something to someone that's not very close to you, you would not otherwise disclose. And then it could be a very close friend and you just got to get it off your chest. And he's saying, not now, because he knows what's going on in her life and she don't need to hear that right now. And so only God can see the other side. If I'm willing, Lord, this is my story. This is all the things I'm dealing with. Here's what's true for me. I'm holding this open in my hand. You tell me when to say, what to say, how much to say. That the authenticity, vulnerability thing has been a huge intentional shift for me, which has been helpful.
I was going to say, because I have known you a long time. So how old? 13, 11, what?
Girl, like 12, 11, 12.
Yeah.
She was like me and Priscilla's big sister for a long time, so she didn't like us. We always got kicked out of her room. And then,
get out.
Get out.
Stop touching my stuff.
What are you doing? Where'd you get this shirt?
Be quiet. Why y'all so loud?
Who you on the phone with? Mommy, Chrystal's on the phone. So
right, tell it on me.
Telling. But then, after college, it didn't matter. We were just all friends. But yeah, so that.
But I have noticed that, like, vulnerability for you, it's not that you have been unwilling to be vulnerable. It's just not your first area of comfort.
Well, I've been my own discerner. That's the problem. If you're not a super open person, you're your own discerner of when you should be vulnerable, you're going to be way more guarded and self-protected than you should be. And God's like, that's not your story. It's my story. And if you're going to be shamed about anything, you should have been shamed in front of me. And there is no shame with me. So why are you worried about anybody else? If I tell you to say it, say it. You need, and I'm going to tell you how much to say. Because he has stopped me in my tracks trying to be spiritual, telling me I'm going to pray for you. And he said, you can pray later. Confess. Share. Tell her. Because more than your prayer and your texted scripture, when you say, girl, I get it, that is where connection happens. And here's the other thing. I've been my own discerner, and I'm an achiever. I like success. So I don't want to share with you what I still haven't figured out. I want to share when I'm on the other side. Oh, let me tell you how. And the Lord is like, you better share before victory. You better share while you still in the battle. Because sometimes people need someone that's in battle with them, not just the victor and the champion on the hill going, girl, you can do it. Everybody don't need that. Sometimes they do, but it's only if I'm discerning, like actively discerning what do I share and when do I share it. That's when the Lord can be, he's the perfect discerner. And he has led me to say things I would have never said on my own because I had to stop being my own discerner.
I did not do this. What is happening?
What?
I don't know. You're just intense.
Yeah, because, well, we have a church, so I'm with a lot of people, but that has been hard. It's hard, and it's very, I don't know the word. It's like emptying. I don't know the word I'm trying to find. It's very, I don't want to say draining because it's not bad. It's just it forces a greater dependence. Because you're like, oh, Lord, I'm putting a lot of pieces of myself out there. And you're putting it out there for him and for what he might do in somebody's life and to love well. And it's not so they can say, oh, my gosh, thank you for sharing that. Oh, my gosh, you changed my life when you might not get any of that. And it's so that you can stay dependent and humble and understand that you need a surrendered story all the time. All the time. And so it makes you feel fragile. That's not fun.
I didn't do it. I just want to say I didn't.
You didn't do that.
I didn't do that.
That's the Lord.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah. I saw you have a picture with your grandmother on.
My grandmother just turned 96. Yeah.
Super sweet. And I know that a lot of your, I am going to be spiritual for just 1 second and read this verse.
Got your whole Tony Evans.
It's not the Tony, it's sad. I need to have the Tony Evans Study Bible. This is the one with all the writing in it. So I'm having a hard time departing.
I know.
It's like I'm trying to.
10 years of.
Yeah. 10 years of notes in here. Matthew 7, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them may be compared to a wise man who built his house on the rock. Rain fell, floods came, the winds blew, slammed against the house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded on the rock. A big part of foundation often is the upbringing that we've received. And I know you've talked a lot about your mom, but when I saw that picture of your grandmother, And the thing is, I'm gonna let you go ahead and tell them just something. Give them something about your grandmother.
Listen, Ernestine. So my mom's an only child. So, and my grandmother is a driver, a very strong personality, but she has probably influenced me as much as my mother. Just a woman of faith. She's like a Bible studier, prayer, go before the Lord. She's that person that's like, Lord woke me up at 3 a.m. And he put this on my heart. I think she got me through college because she used to call me like, I covered you. I was like, that's why I passed that test. But she just is that person, and she breathes scripture. And so she's just been a strength in my life that I really can't explain. And to this day, she'll listen to me teach or Conway teach and be like, that was really good. Now you also know that, thank you for the feedback. So all the time. And so when I went to visit her recently for her 96th birthday, I don't even have my phone up here with me, but she, as soon as I saw her and I was like, happy birthday, Granny. And she just started saying that scripture that, he'll give you long life and salvation. I forgot the scripture, but I put it on my social media. But that's just the first thing came out of her mouth. And so I look at her often and I'm just like, this woman is she's such the bedrock of who I am as a believer that I'm very grateful for that. So, well, she don't play either.
I was going to say.
She was cookies and whoopings. Okay. She wasn't that granny. So she wasn't no grandma and all this jazzy stuff every time. She's like, I'm your grandmother. I beat your mother and I'll beat you. All right. Now let's have some quiet time and we're going to worship and you need a slip. So all the things. So
okay, so what are some practical things, and I'm not saying you can't talk about the word, but what are some practical things that you know to do because she made sure of it? Because she is also very particular about how you host people, how you dress,
Yes.
So when we think about like foundation and building, what are some bricks that you feel like your grandmother either directly or via your mother gave you, and you're like, this is the way it's supposed to be done at church, in home, and maybe when you do these things in your home or do them that way, you're like, this is because my grandmother said, or maybe when you tell young women at your church and you're straightening them up, that came from your grandmother.
Yeah, my grandmother, so she's my shopping partner, or used to be when she was more mobile. So she loves clothes, she loves to dress. I bought her gift cards every birthday. So she'd be like, girl, I've been watching that suit at Dillard's. And so
you gotta watch it.
You got to watch it. 89. How you watching it? You don't have no device. You know I asked Carolyn go by and see if they started that sale. And so I was like, but so she loved clothes and she loved dressing, and she was that woman that was like, now how they gonna have a white, all white day? I just wore my white suit 6 weeks ago. I'm like, it was a whole discussion. So I say that to say, when she taught me about beauty, she doesn't even realize she did it, but she loves clothes, she loves fashion, and I do too. So modesty and beauty wasn't like at the expense of having style. And she always subtly reminded me that this beauty was something that you radiated. So she would say little things. And I remember being a girl, we'd be out and somebody would have on short shorts or tight jeans. And she'd be like, oh, she'd be such a pretty girl if we didn't see all that, And it would never be like, oh, she shouldn't wear that. It would be a compliment dovetails with like, oh, she'd be so pretty if her mouth, if she just, she's so pretty, but sometimes things come out of her mouth are ugly, or, oh, she'd be so, she's so smart, but sometimes her choices. So she found ways to define what beauty and this confidence was as a woman that really has shaped me. Because like at our church, y'all, I am the dress code police. And they trip out because I love clothes and fashion, stuff like that. And even when I was younger, I was like, hey, we don't need to see all that. It's too much information, too much. And so I now have not realized how diligent I am about it, to the point where mothers will be like, okay, my daughter likes the way you dress. I don't like the way she dress. Can you talk to her? Teenagers in their 20s, 30s.
What would you say? Because I think, you're talking about your grandmother talking to you, but I think what you're saying, that's one of the hardest things to communicate, where we want people to feel loved and not to feel judged, especially women in the church. It's like, I don't want you to walk in the church and the first thing I'm doing is talking to you about your clothes.
Yes, and a prayer cloth.
So then people, but what I found is, so do it again.
You coming in here broken before the Lord, they like, all right, did you see that one? Get her up. How you doing, baby? Welcome. You're like, wait, I can't come as I am? Not one time? No.
Well, that's the question. Can I come as I am? And at what point am I crossing the line where I need a prayer cloth? Like what is, so how, because you have a pretty young demographic at your church, which is always just a trip to, I have to remember you're a pastor's wife. I'm just like, oh, she's a pastor's wife. Jada Potato's a pastor's wife.
Pray for our pastor.
So what does that look like? How are you doing that in a way where there's a good balance? Because it's a brick we need to give. It's like it matters how you present yourself. It matters that that you know that you take pride in your appearance, but also that you realize that how you do that matters. But also I've been on the other receiving end of that, where I've had people say things to me and it was very demeaning.
Yeah, and you know, we're not that close. That's really what you want to say.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because the first thing is you speak beauty into everybody, and women have a hard time doing that, especially if they hadn't had beauty spoken into them. Speaking beauty into somebody is one of the most, and listen, a man saying you fine is not the same as a woman saying you're beautiful. It's not the same. When a woman speaks beauty into another woman, hey, beautiful, hey, gorgeous. I used to think that stuff was cheesy. That stuff works. And when you feeling bloated and you breakouts on your face and your hair not right, and people are like, girl, okay, I see you. You know, it's just something about us. And so that you can do for everybody. A lot of times we skip that part and we go straight to speaking correction. And you can't speak correction, without relationship, and speak beauty first. And so if I can't speak correction because I don't know you well, I'm going to speak beauty. Because my grandmother taught me that if I show you enough what's beautiful, you'll figure out what's not beautiful. Ooh. And then we got to learn how to tell somebody they look cute and not just in private. Oh, she thinks she's cute, but not that kind of, to be like, girl, okay, then, so that, I think women gravitate toward other women who are comfortable enough to just speak beauty into them. And then when it comes to the correction part, I am very big on relationship, because my grandmother could shape me because she was my grandmother. And so a lot of times at our church and ministry, whenever I'm doing things, if I see something that I will spend half the day, and I've spent half the day trying to find who knows this person. Because I'm like, you earn the right to speak into somebody's life. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, we'll figure it out. Because I don't know if this was the morning she almost didn't come, and that's what she put then the length of that skirt is secondary. And everybody and all the men and all the AV, we gonna have to just get through it, because we're not gonna die that day. Somebody has to be able to come in imperfect and we not die. Now, if it's a pattern and person's leading, that's different. But most of the time I'm like, let me just go speak beauty, make sure someone is talking to this person. And I don't speak correction until there's a relationship. There's a very small circle. I'd rather influence people who can speak correction with people they have a relationship with than be the police for every single person.
That's good. You mentioned I'd rather influence people.
Yeah.
What's a brick that you would give for talking about influence? Because I think there's a variety of women in the room in terms of the season of life that they're in and online. But I think influence is something we don't talk enough about. Mm-hmm. We all are aware that it exists. We're all watching someone on a stage. But I don't know that, apart from just the general conversation about Titus 2, we know Titus 2 exists, that we really talk about in a practical way what either you can be doing to be intentionally influencing, mm-hmm. or what you should be doing based on your season of life. But I know discipleship is super important to you. I know that you are intentional about discipling young women in your church. And so when you are teaching women that they should be influencing, what are you teaching? What are you telling women? How should that work?
Yeah, so influence, gosh, in this culture is such a heavy word. But I do probably lean more toward discipleship and relationship building, because we got enough people wanting to influence, and I'm like, so I think that comes with, again, a lot of it goes back to being okay with your own story, because it's very difficult to pour into someone's life and create connection when you are only sharing, 5/8 of your own life, so there's a comfort level with that. But I just think it's a biblical call. So I'm like, what does disciple? It's not, are you going to disciple? It's like, how are you going to disciple? It's a call. It's not an option. You don't have to go to seminary. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have Bible study. This is a life on life, kind of connection. And so, in those spaces, I'm trying to encourage people to figure out, who are you pouring into? Who are you pouring into? Our middle schoolers, they got their little elementary mentees, and our high schoolers mentor middle. I'm like, everybody needs to be pouring into everybody, because that's how the body works, right? It's this trickle down fountain. And sometimes it's not just age. I've discipled women older than me. It doesn't matter. It's whoever God brings, and they want to learn from you. But I will say this, discipleship and influence really are not about authority, because authority is given. Influence is earned. So a lot of people can have authority and you have to obey. That's not what you want. Influence, because Jesus he didn't disciple from the mount. He taught from the mount. That's authority. This is what's true. That discipleship was, come follow me, right? And somebody had to say yes and start walking with him. That's how you got discipled. And so that influence piece takes time. It's patience. You have to earn it. And then I want to encourage people to always feel like wherever they are, they can be influencing. And if that replication happens, you just have a much healthier, not just church, a body of Christ. Like, how many of us are not connected to someone that pours into us or that we pour into? Like, you need all of those relationships to be healthy. And then you start to see your circle of people you can be talking to about how low their blouse is, because you're like, do you know her? Then be quiet. So influence is, I think it's a tricky thing, but it's necessary. And when I say it's earned, man, it can be lost. It can be lost. I've had people that, for whatever reason, we didn't get along, or they didn't like something I said, or I could have done, I don't know, any number of reasons. And you need to know when you have lost influence with somebody, and just stop.
How do you know?
They don't willingly seek your guidance, or they act like they are, but every time you give guidance or instruction, they're never really taking that into account. And that's okay. Jesus lost influence. I'm not worried about it. I'm not here to make sure you always listen to what I say. There's a season, your heart is open, and for some people that shifts. And they're like, I don't want to hear from you anymore. Okay. That's okay. I don't need you in my audience, whoever God brings. And there's a lot of things that can cause that, but that is one of the most frustrating things. It happens to parents. It happens to siblings. You need to know. And when you've lost influence, if you're not aware of it, you'll lean so heavy into authority, you'll ruin a relationship.
Goodness, girl. So you have, I remember, and I don't know if this is still something you're doing. There was one year, well, I just wanted to know if I had made the cut, because you were like, I gotta, there's too many people in my life. I gotta decide who's the inner circle, who's the inner circle, who's the 2 or 3, who's the 12. Everybody else, I'm just gonna pray for them when I see them online. And I was just like, which level am I? Because you were so like, just trying to be intentional with your time and deciding who gets how much. I remember that. So, is that still something you do?
Listen, you gotta clean your closet out. You gotta clean your relationships out. But it's not, it's usually not that drastic, but I do pray often. Like this time of year, I really am praying about relationships that might not be what the Lord has for me now, or relationships that I might not even want to be in, and he's telling me you need to pursue this. And so that's the only thing that will keep you with some kind of healthy balance. And when you're creating space, it's not disconnection. You're not like unavailable. They on the side of the road, you're like, don't call me, girl. It's not that. It's just like, if I'm gonna be intentional, then what does that look like? So this year, actually, I got some current friendships that the Lord is like, you need to lean into this. And I was like, I do need to lean into that. I was just talking to Chandru the other day. I was like, man, you have seasons where you have better friends than you are a friend. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
Seasons, you're just not a good friend. And so now the Lord has been like, hey, remember this one and this one, when they kept depositing in you and you just was sucking all the friendship out because you were going through your stuff. I need you to deposit. And so he's just kind of showing me some old friendships that I need to lean into, some new ones, that one that's getting on your nerves. I want you to go talk to her. You're like, why? Why, Lord? Get over yourself, cuz just go talk to her. So yeah, he'll do that.
Hey there, I hope you're enjoying this episode, but I want to challenge you to grow to the next level if you're a leader. Jada and I both are having this conversation as friends, but we are also both leaders. And off camera, y'all, we get together to do the most to make sure that we are growing as women, as wives, but also as leaders. Because so many people will say, Chrystal, can I pick your brain? Chrystal, can we go to coffee? Chrystal, I've got this question and it's related to leadership. I am hosting a special retreat, April the 23rd through April 26th. It's down the street from Magnolia in Waco, just for leaders. There's like 25 spots, y'all. Very, very small. The goal is to have me speak into you as a leader and to have other women who are leaders speak into you too. We're going to have hard skills, soft skills, and lots of opportunity to grow together. So if you're a leader, you're in ministry, or maybe you own your own business, you're a CEO or you're a C-suite executive, you're a leader in your community, and you just need to get around some like-minded women to network, but also to grow, consider joining me. This is a special intimate event, keeping it small, and I would love for you to consider coming. I am going to be talking to my email list first, and when the spots are gone, they're gone. So here's how you need to make sure you find out more about it. Get on my email list. Go to crystalevanshurst.com. Right underneath my picture, you will see a place to put your email, and that will make sure that when I send out the notifications about how to register, you'll get it. All right, y'all, let's jump into this conversation with my friend and amazing leader, Jada Edwards. So what have some missteps? You are, I just want to give you the opportunity to share any, because you're almost 50, any wisdom before you start telling people off. Any wisdom.
It's going to be wise.
No, I know. It's going to be wise when I tell off spirit. I'm saying any wisdom, like you've been in the ministry game now for 25 plus years, formally, but there's some things you learn along the way. And I know we've talked about some of those things today, but if I just said, it's a free for all. If you're like, before I leave this room, I want to make sure I hand these bricks. I've learned this. Maybe it's because of a misstep. Maybe it's because of something I knew, but I didn't know. Is there anything else that you would say, if I could leave you with this or these things, I want you to know this. Use this to build, please, God.
Oh, Lord, let's see. So many missteps. Which one will I pick for the room, Lord? One of my big ones that again, a lot of it is because of how I'm wired and I'm kind of frantic, has been a struggle with consistency. It really is hard for me to do anything for a long time.
I don't agree with that. You've worked out consistently. You have been.
Yeah, but it's not the same workout. I can't do the same thing and I can't go to the same place and I can't work out at home. I can't do it. I got to be somewhere in a gym with people. And that has a pretty quick gratification to it. After a few weeks, you're like, I've been working out. So you just feel good about that. But things that, still in general, no.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like,
inconsistent.
So for me, if I teach twice a month at our church on our women's Bible study, I remember for first few years just doing that all year round. And then I was like, I don't want to do this ever again. I don't like it. And the Lord was like, you do like it. And I was like, why don't I want to do it? He said, you don't want to do it the way you're doing it. So figure it out. So then we went to semesters and I would do like 10 sessions in the spring, 10 in the fall. And then that's changed. And now sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 8, sometimes I bring in a guest. And I still love teaching, but anything that puts me on like a rhythm, you got to do this every 2 weeks, that does not excite me. I work better in cycles and projects. I like to go hard for a while.
Endpoint.
Yeah, I got to go hard for a while and take a break. And go hard for a while, take a break, which is funny because I'm not a sprinter. I was a distance runner. But even with that, that's how I ran distance. I ran long distance and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this hill. I'm going to go hard for 5 minutes. Okay, then that's how my brain works. And so things that I called failure were really just things I needed to figure out based on how I was wired. And so I used to feel bad that I wasn't a person that got up at 5:12 every morning and had quiet time, and coffee and Bible and colored pens and all those things. I was like, gosh, I want to be able to take a picture of my quiet time and put it on Instagram. But I'm like, it's a Cheerio under my leg and there's a Lego over here. And I can't find my Bible and pull up my phone and just like, whatever. So that that has been freeing for me, even though I'm always working on it. I had to be okay knowing that, oh, I skipped these 2 days, but I'm gonna have my time with the Lord this evening, or this day's been crazy. I'm gonna sit in this car for 10 minutes before I go in this house because I just need to check in with the Lord. And He has given me a freedom to just show me, here's what that can look like. I just want you to be with me. I'm not on this. I don't have to see you every day at 5:10.
Sorry, hold on. Did y'all hear that? Okay.
Yeah. So that was freeing for me because I just felt shame. I was in church too. People were like, every morning I was like, knowing in my mind it's been, I'm a night owl, and sometimes it's 1 a.m. when I'm about to lay down. I'm like, oh Lord, let me just have some time with you. And so being consistent, which is important, but again, learning what works for you, like what's healthy for you. So I say that because in Christian spaces, discipline is very important, but sometimes discipline becomes idolized over what really is true connection and intimacy. And so they're telling you and your husband need a date night every week or every month, or you got to have intimacy physically this many times a month, or you got to do this with your kids twice a month, or you got to be with them. When we start to get into that, then the discipline moves into like this unhealthy regimen, and you really miss what's fluid about intimacy. And that can be hard in Christian spaces because we just prioritize. I got 3 empty prayer journals at my house. They're gorgeous too. And I was like, every 2 or 3 years, I'm like, I'm going to do a prayer journal and just write out my prayers to the Lord. And I know the Lord be up there like, girl, just say the prayer. Just say the prayer, And every time I'm just like, why would I write this down? Oh my gosh, let me just say it, Lord. And then I don't do it. And then I'm like, gosh, I had stickers and everything. Dang, this is going to be good. And they're just in there. And maybe one year I will do it, but I don't want those things to be some gauge on how well I'm doing with the Lord. And so that has just come up in a lot of areas with kids, with marriage, everything. What I call consistency. And the Lord is like, hey, the goal is connection. And how we get there is going to be different than how somebody else gets there. So just be free from that. If you skip a morning, the enemy is not going to take over your life. You're all right. The second thing would probably be learning how to apologize genuinely. I have to apologize a lot. And so
it's going to get worse when you turn 50.
Oh, no, I ain't apologizing when I turn 50. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I have learned how to apologize. I like to be right. And I spent a lot of years whenever I got feedback or someone was offended by the way I said it or anything, I was defensive. Or I gave that apology that I was like, well, I'm sorry that you took it that way. That's not an apology. And I have become much more comfortable. It's authenticity. Once I know who I am, and someone says, hey, you said that felt kind of rude. Girl, you're right. Sometimes I just be rude. That was an accident. I'm so sorry. Then I don't have to try to argue with you about that way. Maybe you sensitive, or that's how you took it that way, or nobody else was offended. Like, who cares? God's like, in that moment, someone has just shared with you how your actions affected them. Be in the moment. It doesn't take away from who you are as a person. Just be in it. Because I'm trying to be at a place in my life where when people say something to me about me, I'm not surprised. That's my goal. I don't want anybody at this age in my life giving me feedback about who I am. And I'm like, what? You need to know yourself because everybody else already does. You need to know yourself. And if you know you slow, you know you're always late, you know you don't think fast, and somebody tells you you need to speed up, quit being offended. Just figure out how you can work through it. Wow. You talk too fast and talk too much and you're always trying to run stuff, deal with it. Just figure out how can you work with it in the moment. So when I say apologize, and I'm not walking around saying sorry all the time, but I am aware of who I am and when there's a rub with how somebody else is wired. And I can own that. An authentic apology is the quickest way to move a relationship forward. And if you think you got to make the case about why you were right and they really were wrong, then it's not the season for you. Like, this is not a good relationship if you feel like you're always having to make a case. Let the Lord deal with that. Let the Lord deal with that. And so apologizing, being okay with who I am, understanding that, and that consistency piece, really kind of driving my intimacy have been two big things that I didn't do well for a long time.
Back in July, you said before you build something, you must be willing to break something. Foundations are built on excavated land. What has that?
Who I said that?
July.
How you know? Did I tell you in July?
You don't know? You don't know what I know? You don't know how I like to scoop out.
Investigate.
What has that breaking, uprooting process looked like in your life? Why were you saying that?
July. Ooh, I was teaching on Josiah. That probably came out of studying the life of King Josiah, who was a young king, became king at the age of 8, I believe, and had to work through a lot of rubble of a destroyed temple in order to ultimately begin rebuilding. And his story, I think, spoke to a lot of seasons in my life where I thought if I just added good information and good knowledge and good scripture and good behavior to my life, that would produce the result I wanted. And I have learned that the Christian life is as much about subtraction as it is addition. And if you say, I'm going to still live my life and talk to people the way I want to talk to, but also I'm going to study these scriptures on forgiveness and peace and all that, God is like, you're never going to see the full fruit of that because the foundation that it's built on is unhealthy. And so I've had to uproot thinking about myself, about other people, assumptions I make, because that creates the space for all the good things that we're always keeping a list. I need to be more kind. I need to be peaceful. I need to be loving. I need to be all these things. It is the addition mentality in the church, and we all do it. We go to church to figure out the stuff we need to start doing. And we don't spend enough time figuring out what we need to stop doing. And so the uprooting process has been really important for me. It's changed everything. And so I could say, I'm going to work on my spending. I'm going to put myself on a budget. Okay, so I'm going to add this discipline. But I really haven't uprooted the thinking that makes me think I need these things in order to feel good. Like, I really need to go over here and start to dig up. Why are you struggling? Because the budget only works as long as your finances match that. As soon as you get a raise, that budget gone. You still haven't dealt with, God may want to give you 10 times what you're making, but he's like, I don't know how you're going to spend it because you're only on a budget because that's all you got. You're not on a budget because you understand how to steward well. And so that uprooting of thinking is so much more work. No one's going to applaud you. They're not going to look at you and say, girl, I can tell you've been working on why you hold grudges. No, they're not going to know. They're not going to know. No one's going to yay you and applaud you. That is between you and the Lord as you till the soil of your heart so that whatever he wants to put in there can actually bear fruit. And it is hard, unseen work that has to be done. And I have seen how many times I have tried to plant things and they get choked out by weeds or by bad soil. And God is like, girl, you're doing this wrong. If you would just work on the cleanup process, you would be surprised what you already know that just hadn't been able to bear fruit because it is no good ground. So that's just work. That's all it is. It's not fun. It's just work, but it's necessary.
Okay, I hope that conversation resonated with you. I know in real time it resonated with me. But here's the thing. If it resonates, if it marks you, but you leave this episode and don't do anything with it, it might not change you. And I want the content that I produce here to challenge you to change. So here are 3 questions that you can either answer in the comments below or you can share with friends. This is the Sister Circle podcast, right? Well, what that means is you can go get your sister circle, have them watch this episode, and then use 1, 2, or all 3 of these questions to chat about. Because if your friendships don't help grow you, come on, then are you really a friend? So here's question number 1. Are you holding back parts of your story out of shame? Come on, we talked about vulnerability. Are you holding back parts of your story because of shame? Question number 2, how has God equipped you to show up for others in your life? And are you doing that? How has God equipped you to show up for others in your life? And because I believe in the power of 3, here's question number 3. What old ways of thinking do you need to let go of? All right. Because if you're thinking in old ways, you can't do new and beautiful things. So answer me one of those in the comments. Get your girls together. Have them watch this episode. Take those 3 questions and be intentional about your sister circle.